Born and raised in St. Louis, Neil played at Creve Coeur for the AAA Blues. He played in the Pee Wee Quebec tournament as an underage player for the National Development Team. After playing for the National Development Team, he played for Notre Dame. Neil was drafted into the NHL and played in the American Hockey League. Neil now coaches the AAA Blues. Congratulations, Neil Komadoski.
Nothing like following the local kid that won a Stanley Cup, so thanks for that, Rupper. But I'd like to thank Scott Rupp and the army of Rupps that seem to appear out of nowhere all the time to put these events on. We're all very lucky to have you and appreciative of your efforts for everything you do for St. Louis and the history of St. Louis hockey. Congratulations to everybody else up here. It's an honor to be selected, an honor to be inducted with you all, and I'm going to give a run at this speech here. You can't really talk about St. Louis without talking about the St. Louis Blues. The Blues alumni for me, I was lucky enough, my dad played in the NHL for the Blues, was here for 3 years. So I have a lot of memories as a child of being down at the old arena, and one of my wishes to this day is that I could drink a beer at the old arena because all I get is Enterprise Center. But the way that that place rocked and the way that that place felt was incredible, and I wish I could have felt that. Some things that stand out about the old arena, in the alumni room they had these chili cheese nachos that were like the greatest thing on the planet, and I would eat so much of them every single time I was there. I'd puke after every single game. And my parents allowed me to continue to eat them every single time, but I think that really cemented my love for the old arena and what I got to do when I got down there. We can't forget about Game 4 in 1993 when Eddie Belfour broke his stick after the Blues swept them. He went bananas. That was cool to see, the whole crowd chanting Belfour. There were some referee expletives. Sorry, Peelsy, but those things happened back then. Then they moved to Kiel Center with the terrible pink and purple seats, which I don't think anybody liked, but they eventually changed those. I was there for Wayne Gretzky's first home game as a Blue. I vividly remember leaving a friend's house in 1996 when Steve Yzerman scored the goal in double overtime on John Casey. Back then there were no cell phones, there was no way to watch the game, and I thought my mom could get me from my friend's house back home before the overtime started. But I got home and the game was already over. Broke my heart, still does to this day. I guess one of the biggest things, I currently work for the Vancouver Canucks, and in 2019, the St. Louis Blues won the Stanley Cup, as I'm sure many of you are aware. And for me, there was a lot of jealousy in 2019, working for a different NHL team and having that happen around you, but it was really cool as well. It was cool to see my kids experience that, my family, to see my dad, who's an alumni. You know, the Blues had made it to the conference finals before, but had never pushed it over the top. The way the city came together was incredible, and by the end of it, I couldn't help but get swept up in it, rooting for the Blues, cheering when they scored, and any time to see the Bruins lose and Brad Marchand, that little puke, lose was awesome. Because the Bruins had beaten us in 2011, my first year working, so I hate that guy, and we'll leave it at that. We had a great Game 7 party at my friend John McDonald's house. He had an ice luge. Some people in here may have taken part in the ice luge. He rented an 80-inch TV. Then there was going to be rain. He got a tent. It's something that will live in my memory forever, and I was able to experience that with my family, and it was incredible. The alumni, with my dad being a former Blue, have always treated me extremely well as a kid. Even now, I'm like a quasi-alumni, but they treat me like I'm one of theirs, and for that, I'm very thankful. And I get to skate with them. We have a great time. Table 37 back there. A lot of them are there, so thank you guys. It's always fun to go to the rink and hang out with you. When I was 16 or 17, I got to start skating with some of the Blues players that would be getting ready for training camp. They'd start milling into town around August. And they needed players to skate, and I was fortunate enough to go out a few times. And the very first time I skated with them, I went wide on Chris Pronger, and he broke my stick in half when I got around him, and I was never more terrified in my entire life than that moment. And he didn't say anything. He wasn't like, sorry, whatever. It was like, don't ever do that again, or it'll be your leg next time. So these are some of the great memories I have of the St. Louis Blues, St. Louis hockey growing up. Some AAA Blues memories. I obviously started playing at Creve Coeur. Then I moved on to the AAA Blues, and that was kind of what we thought at that point was big time. We thought we were great. The first year, we were awful. It didn't go real well. Our second year, we had a home series with CompuWare, and a lot of hockey people in here, I think, know CompuWare, one of the powerhouses nationally. And our second game against them, we beat them. And that was a huge accomplishment for us. And my dad was the coach. And we thought, hey, we're really going to be good this year, and here we go. And then I think we lost 20 games in a row right after that. So, you know, St. Louis wasn't a traditional hockey hotbed. Obviously, that has changed today. It's the guys that have been here and coached and stuck around. My dad, Blake Dunlop, his son Conor's here. We'll talk about him in a few minutes. John Wensink, Bud Staggy, Perry Turnbull, the list goes on. But we were at one point a laughing stock of the country in terms of hockey, and now we're right in the center of it. So we're very lucky to have those guys stick around and do those things for us. So there you go. A couple of my lifelong friends who I grew up playing with at Creve Coeur AAA Blues are here tonight. We're going to touch on them briefly. Steve Bruce, can you wave your hand? There you go. Steve Bruce, the Italian stallion. He showed us all how to shave in ninth grade because he had been since third grade. Everywhere. But he's a great friend. 2 weeks ago, I needed a bed moved into my parents' house. I called him. I said, hey, I need help. I need to go to my parents' house and move a bed in. And he said, I'll be right there. And I hadn't seen or talked to him in a while, but that's what you did. You called Steve, and he showed up. So he unfortunately didn't get to go to the Quebec tournament because he broke his leg. I'm very confident had he been there, we would have maybe won a game. And I also am willing to say at this point that your shot may have been harder than mine. But that's the only time you hear me say it. Ryan Dooley, can you raise your hand, please? Where are you? Yep, there you go. Finally shaved his head. 5 years too late, but we love him. Ryan flew in from Phoenix, Arizona. He's my son Patrick's godfather. He was a goalie for us as we grew up. He has a 5-hole that you could fit an aircraft carrier through, and a golf swing that makes Charles Barkley look like Tiger Woods. But some of my best memories are with Ryan, his mom Claudia, his dad Mike, his brother Mark, Matt. We had great times. Late night, one night, this started my love of baked goods. We were hungry, there was nothing there, and we started baking cakes. Like Duncan Hines, Betty Crocker. We would sit as 13, 14-year-old boys and bake cakes in his house, and it was incredible. I loved it. His dad, Mike Dooley, made the first pump-up tape I'd ever seen in my entire life for our Creve Coeur team. The soundtrack was Pearl Jam, and it was the most incredible thing I'd ever seen in 1994. So thank you for that, Mike. Ryan and I and Steve, we'd all go to these stick and pucks when we were younger, just any time to get on the ice. One particular time we were there, and his neighbor was there. What was his name? Scott Schrader was there, and Scott was older, and he was not a very nice guy. And somehow Scott and I got into a fight during this stick and puck. Like gloves on, helmets on, boxing. We're rolling around on the ice. Somebody finally broke it up. And later that day, my mom went and gave him a lawn job across from the Dooley's house. So, Mike and Claude, you might not know that, but that happened. Jan Stasny is not here today. He got inducted last year, and I was very sad to have missed his induction ceremony. They moved here when Peter got traded from the New Jersey Devils. They moved close to the Bruces. We all went to Chaminade together, and the rest was history. Jan had a very successful pro career, NHL career. He was a competitor, relentless on the ice. When he got here, his English was a little broken. We didn't know a lot about him. But about 2 or 3 weeks in, one of our teammates said something not so nice to him, and he got up, walked over to him, and just popped him right in the face. And we knew from that moment on, don't mess with Jan. So we didn't. And to this day, he's a guy that if you call him, he'll do anything for you. Next, Conor Dunlop. He's sitting right over here. Can you raise your hand, please? So Conor and I played together for a very long time. We played at Creve Coeur together. I followed him basically everywhere after that. The AAA Blues, went to Chaminade, the National Team Development Program in Ann Arbor, and Notre Dame. I even got that same awful butt cut that he had in 8th grade, but I never wore the puka necklace shells that he wore, or puka shell necklaces he wore in college. I couldn't get on board with that. He always made me feel like one of the guys with the older kids, especially when I got to Notre Dame. He welcomed me, he took care of me. He even picked my classes before freshman year. But then I came home 2 weeks into school, for whatever reason. There was a Tim McGraw and Faith Hill concert, and we had a weekend off. So I came and saw Tim McGraw, Soul to Soul Tour 2000. But we were sitting at my parents' house, and Murph was over. If you guys all don't know Mike Murphy, we'll get to him in a minute. But Murph was over and asked me what my major was going to be. And I said, oh, sociology. Connor picked all my classes. It was the cakewalk through school. Murph looked at Big Neil and said, that's not happening. We're not getting sociology degrees here. We're getting business degrees. So I had to change my entire major. He tried to help me. But Connor is a financial advisor and has a sociology degree, so I'm still trying to figure that one out. Says a lot about your industry. You two, Kittner and Janes. Honorable mention, Nick Ole and Jordan Janes, who are here today. Can you guys give a little wave? Nick was a year younger, but he was always hanging around. We befriended him. He's like a little brother, now a brother. And Jordan, I'm not really sure when he came into the mix, but we have a weird connection when I played in Toronto. He knew some people that I had played with, and these two guys are two of the best, so thank you for coming. I've actually never seen Jordan with a pair of ice skates on or hockey skates, and apparently he played at SLU. He coached all these Kachuk kids and McInnes kids growing up, but I have to this day yet to see him with a pair of skates on, so we'll see. We will see. Anybody here see the movie The Town? Has anybody seen that movie? Anybody like that movie? Okay, so there's a scene in that movie, and I just saw it recently, and that's kind of what my friends, really everybody that's here, mean to me. And it's a scene where Ben Affleck finds out his lady friend is getting in trouble, getting harassed by some guys, and he goes to his friend Jeremy Renner, and he walks in the door, he says, I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're going to hurt some people. And Jeremy Renner's character looks at him and goes, whose car are we going to take? And that's what these guys would do for me and that I would do for them. So thank you for always being there. I love you guys, and thankful for your friendship, your hockey playing days. And now we're going to get into some coaches. Obviously, Big Neil was there the whole way, and we're going to get to him in a little bit. My early Creve Coeur days, Bill Alexander, Fred Maroney, and George Stewart. Blake Dunlop was also around a lot. He also had the Blake Dunlop Advanced Hockey School, who I'm sure many of you went to. He would bring in guys like Brian Burke to terrify us and never want us to go back again and leave everybody in tears. But thanks for scarring us at an early age, Blake. Peter Stastny, when Jan and the whole family moved and Jan was on our team, Peter would pop on the ice. And you could learn a lot from him because he was in the NHL and an unbelievable hockey player. But to this day, Peter still will offer you words of advice, like in alumni skates. And actually yesterday he did, but I have 3 different stories in the last 3 months. I hadn't seen Peter in a while, and for our alumni skates, he comes out. And I had a particularly good day. I was flying, I was scoring, everything was great. Afterwards, I get off the ice, Peter goes, Junior. So that's what he called me, even though I'm technically not a junior. He called me Junior. Junior, you look like Bobby Orr today. Where was this when you were actually playing hockey? And I'm like, yeah, Peter. He's like, no, seriously, what happened, you know? And I was kind of like, thanks, I guess. And then 3 weeks later, same thing. It was a tough day. And I get off, and he just goes, Junior, you were useless today. And then yesterday, literally yesterday morning, I had these 2 things to talk about. I had just an okay day, a lot of scoring chances, didn't score. I scored the eventual game winner on Mr. Vickers, but he let me because I was having such a tough day. And we get in there and he goes, Junior, how many chances do you need to put the puck in the net? And there you go, that's Peter Stastny in a nutshell. John Wensink and Bud Steggy. Bud's here. Bud, can you raise your hand? Over there. Is John here? Is Wire here? Or no? No, but they coached me, the Quebec team, and many of us as we were growing up, and they taught us how to be tough. They taught us how to be competitors. They taught us what it meant to be a teammate and to sacrifice. And I was fortunate enough to ride in the car with John and Bud to Granite City a lot, to some of those other places. And the stuff I learned, I can't really say, but it was incredible. So thank you, Bud. Thank you, John. Mike Murphy. Murph, raise your hand. Everybody in here knows Murph. This is the guy that taught me about life, about golf, about hockey. If you wonder why I don't play golf that often, but I could still probably beat 95% of you in here, it's because of Murph. I'm very thankful for that. 3 things happen when you see Murph, whether it's professionally because you're injured or you just see him. 1 is you laugh. 2 is you learn. You always learn something with Murph. And the 3rd is you leave feeling better about yourself, whether that's physically, mentally, whatever it is. And he gave me the best piece of advice before I went to college, besides picking my major. He said, and I've used this recently, we have some friends that their son has gone to college and some others have. He said, now Neil, I'm going to give you a piece of advice. Don't let your schoolwork interfere with your education. You guys know, you get that? Yeah. I don't think my coaches at Notre Dame appreciated it, but Murph, thank you. I feel fortunate to have learned so much, and you're amazing. There's a brief part of me I need to say thanks, and Rubus, I don't even know if you were coaching Chaminade at that point, but Mark Finke, I played 1 game for Chaminade before Big Neil pulled me out, but thank you for whatever you guys may have taught me during that game. A few of my coaches from the National Team Development Program, Bob Mancini, if you have to watch the modules to be a coach in USA Hockey, he was not that nice. He told me the story of the old bull and the young bull, which I can't say here, but if you want to hear about it, come find me later. Jeff Jackson, Ken Martell, John Hines, and Jim Hunt. And Jim Hunt gave me 2 of the coolest pieces of motivation that I've ever heard in my entire life. The first was, somehow he made his way to the National Team Development Program, but he was a police officer from New Jersey, and I have no idea how that happened. But before a game one time, he said, this game is a defining moment. And when a defining moment comes along, either you define the moment or the moment defines you. And that just like hit me right here. I mean, that's pretty good, right? Yes? Yeah, it's pretty good. So 3 months later, we were on the bus, and they put the movie Tin Cup on. Has anybody seen Tin Cup? Well, that's a quote from that movie. And I felt so betrayed. I was like, he just used a Kevin Costner rom-com to motivate us before a major game. And then he did it again with the movie For Love of the Game, where he talks about clearing the mechanism, Billy Chappell, Kevin Costner, and then he put the movie on again. So if you're gonna use movies for inspirational quotes, coaches, don't let the team watch the movie 2 months later. I have to thank my college coaches, Dave Poulin, who taught us about floaters, how to work out early in the morning, and how he scored 27 times in a row on Ron Hextall, and then they fought in practice. But Dunny, when you get in here, I'll let you give the Dave Poulin speech. Andy Swaggart, hands down the greatest human being on the planet. There's a lot of good people in this room, but nobody that can measure up to Andy. He recruited me, taught me how to be a good person, teammate, and friend. He drove to my wedding, 6 hours from South Bend, went to the ceremony, couldn't stay, turned around and left. Pretty special human being. Now we're gonna move on to family. My in-laws, Bob and Bonnie Kreutz. Don't worry, we're almost done, people. It's not that long. My father-in-law, if you were here last year, he gave a speech at this ceremony before I did. Leave it to him to find a baseball player turned hockey coach, get him elected into the St. Louis Amateur Hockey Hall of Fame, and give a speech about it. That's Bob. Anything sports, he's in. He also came to visit me in Binghamton and watch some games on Thanksgiving of 2005. He loved it, wanted to come, couldn't wait to get there. He and Bonnie drove 15 hours, spent Thanksgiving with us. We played that night. My coach is a huge a-hole and scratched me that night, so I didn't play. He didn't get to see me. The next night we went to Bridgeport. They didn't make that trip. Then we came back, and we had the greatest comeback win of all time, and it was incredible. But little did I know that somebody had gotten hit in the head with a puck in the first period of that game, and taken to the hospital, and it was Bob. So he came all this way, watched one period, and missed the greatest game I've ever been a part of in my entire life. But he came back with a smile on his face and a great story. Bonnie, you are a rock for my wife. You are a rock for our family. I travel a lot. You're there for everybody. She hasn't left Kirkwood in 40 years, so this is a big deal for her. But we're happy to have her here. My uncle, Keith Wertman, and Kay Wertman couldn't be here tonight. Keith's a member of the Nebraska Cornhusker Football Hall of Fame. He's actually kind of a thoughtful guy for being a football player and going to Nebraska. My Aunt Kay, when my mom and sister were figure skating in Colorado Springs, she stepped up. She was my room mother in 4th grade. I owe a lot to them. I wish they could be here, but I'm very thankful for everything that they've done. My brother Kevin, who lives in Winnipeg, also couldn't be here. He was the best man at my wedding. We didn't get a lot of time together when we were younger because he lived in Winnipeg. But he's become a close confidant, a close friend, anybody I can talk to about anything, and a huge Jets fan, and gives me all the inside scoop about what's going on with them. My sister Kelly, my nephew Leo, we used to fight and argue about who would get to be Mario and who would get to be Luigi in Nintendo. We would fist fight about it and get the Nintendo taken away, like I think most brothers and sisters may have. I gave her stitches on Christmas one morning, putting her in the net. My dad was on the roof taking the Christmas lights off. She got net, and I cracked one right in her forehead, and off to the emergency room we went. So she was always willing to step in and be the goalie when I needed her. And she's going through some tough times right now. But I love you. You've always had my back, and I will always have yours. There's probably too many stories to tell about my mom and youth hockey and hockey, but we'll get to a couple. There were several occasions where Big Neil had to leave the bench and go over to the stands to break up some altercations or screaming matches. Andy Swaggart, my coach at Notre Dame, tells a great story of when my mom was holding their infant son, Graham, who just graduated from Notre Dame, but he was probably 3 or 4 months old. They were at one of my games. I got into a fight, and they said, without missing a beat, she's holding the baby. She looks up and says, "Kick his ass, Neil." There was an incident in Miami of Ohio during the playoffs. She didn't have any trouble at Yost Ice Arena, one of the most hostile rinks in the country, giving it to some of the college students when they were misbehaving in front of some of my teammates' younger brothers. She went to work at Annie Gunn's so that she could pay to come around the world and watch me. My parents were there my first game with the under-17 team in Grand Rapids on a Wednesday night. It was about an 8-hour drive. I wasn't expecting it, but off the bus I got, and there we were. She's passionate, fiercely loyal, and I get that from her. Then there's Big Neil. He was there coaching the whole way, start to finish, from the first time I got on the ice till I left Toronto, and even everything in between and afterwards. Mental coach, whatever I needed, whenever I needed to talk, whenever I needed a kick in the ass, he gave it to me, still does. There was a few near brawls in Granite City in the early days with some coaches and parents, but other than that, it was pretty clean most of the way. The thing I remember most about him is our time at Grey Eagle on the weekends, eating Emo's Pizza in the Eagle's Nest, doing my homework there, going to practice, coming back, piling 3 or 4 kids into the car to go to Chicago for a weekend of hockey. In college, he became known as the beer guy, because he is the beer guy. He got close to my teammates very quickly when they found out he would bring free beer every time he came. Shirts, hats, you name it, he knew how to take care of everybody, and he still does. He taught me how to be coachable, how to protect yourself, your friends, and your teammates. I wasn't always an easy kid to coach, but you did it, even when it was really hard. Everything I've learned about hockey and life, I learned from you, and I couldn't ask for a better dad or best friend. Now, my family, Annie, hockey's taken us on a crazy journey, a lot of crazy cities. Springfield, Illinois, Danville, Illinois, Binghamton, New York, Peoria, Illinois. You were there the whole way, you never complained, even when I didn't want to miss a tournament for my second year of scouting and made you get induced with our middle child, Patrick, which is really embarrassing to say that I asked her to do right now. But she did it, didn't bat an eye, because I was worried about making sure I was there to get the job done. I love you. You're our rock. You're the only person that can balance me out. My son George, I love your dedication and hard work you put into everything you do, but I really love the fact that you will go see a Marvel or Star Wars movie with me on opening night, and I hope you will for the rest of my life. Patrick, everybody loves you. You have more friends than anybody I know. I'm 40 years old and I don't have as many friends as you have. But you go with the flow, something I wish I could do more. You're a great friend and a great son. Kathleen, hi. You're sweet, you're caring, funny, and beautiful like your mother, but I think you may have gotten my singing voice, thank God. I'm so thankful you came along because now I can watch all the Disney princess movies and not look like a total creep. And if you haven't seen Moana, watch it in this room, it's incredible. And my dog Vader, he's not here, but he's the goodest boy. He always loves me no matter what. And I'm very happy that he's a part of our family. What, wrap it up? Is that what you're saying? Okay, I'm pretty much done. I'm super excited to be involved here. There's so many people here for us. Everybody knows it takes a village when it comes to hockey, and everybody that's here has been a village to me, is now a village to my kids. I'm super thankful. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for coming. 3 things. Quick things. Helen Carey, are you here? You're still here? Helen. Okay, so out there, I played AAA hockey. I played for the National Team Development Program, and I was drafted. Can I please get on the alumni page on the AAA Blues website? I know Hef doesn't like me, but I think you do, so hopefully we can get that sorted. 3 other things, the last 3 things. 1, I'm a big music guy, and I'd like to recite something for all of you that I think the current state of our world could use. If you know the lyrics, let me know. If everyone cared and nobody cried, if everyone loved and nobody lied, if everyone shared and swallowed their pride, then we'd see the day that nobody died. Anybody? Chad Kroeger, the beautiful lyricist of Nickelback. Second thing, my mom said this to me before every game, and she says it to my kids. In the game of life, keep your head up, hit somebody, and have fun. Third and most importantly, may the force be with you all. Thank you.